pull it in. Damn, it's not pulling it in.
Is maybe just delayed a second.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Instagram.
We got 3 people, it says.
Huh?
It says we got 3 people.
Oh, I know, right? I know. We're in the YouTube realms. Everybody's coming in to see the situation. Okay. So that's there. I'm gonna refresh this. Okay, you guys, we're just doing a little setup pregame, but we're about to get into it. We're about to like figure out what the hell is going on with everyone. No. Yeah, this is like it's so much. Like we have to watch this video of you going off. Like I need to watch that again. You were like I was like, "Wait a second. Did she like is this like I thought it was like something like someone recorded, like it was like created like a production." I was like, "Wait a second. I know
No,
her."
no, yeah, because our school board once a month, they have a public comment. It's
Mhm.
the last meeting of the month when they have their full board meeting, and it's online and in person. So you could either go in person and give your comment, in which case you're not on camera. You just
Okay.
have your voice recorded. But if
Uh-huh.
you're on Zoom and you turn your camera on, you'll be recorded on the video record that's posted
Okay.
up. So I was
Mhm.
sitting right here in my room, just like this. I didn't have my microphone because I felt like that was a little much. But I was sitting right here, and then what I did was I just cut the video because it was like a Zoom. So it was on one side was the board members, and on one side was me. So I cut it for Instagram. I put me on top and them on the bottom.
I
But
know.
that was like me really speaking out at a board meeting.
I know. It was such an epic, like, the way you delivered and handled everything was like flawless. Like, I was like, whoa, you need to, like, do that, like, for real. Because you just, like,
Well,
laid
I
it down.
I've been known to say a thing or two. This isn't my first time speaking out at a board meeting, that's for sure.
What? You speaking your opinion on something? Wait a second.
I know, it's a new thing, I
Is this new thing you're trying
Are you
out? What?
Do you have the clip? Or I could give more context. I could give more
Yeah, yeah,
context.
I'm
So
about to launch the clip. I'm just waiting for everybody to like come in, like people are
oh,
still
I hear
coming
you, I
in
hear you. So
before we
more
start
context,
playing it. More context. But
right?
yeah, no, this discussion is going, okay. It's like, listen, people can say what they want to say, but like people are hearing our voices. Point blank, period. Like everyone expects it to be some Marvel over the top CGI, CNN, MSNBC, like drama, Wendy Williams production. And it's literally just people saying, hey, WTF, like what's going on?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna look like people want it to look, and I don't think it's gonna feel like people want it to feel just in terms of vindication, I suppose, or I was
Yes.
right, or, "Oh, the masses have woken up." Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think that, first of all, it has to seep into the culture. I do think that there needs to be time and space. I mean, think about when you have an argument with somebody. A lot of
Yeah.
times you don't just kiss and make up if it's a bad argument. You need some time and space and then you come back to it. But this isn't just you and your friend. This is a whole country that had
Literally.
a huge argument, even arguably the world, right? So, we need some space, we need some time. And I'm okay just as long as there's not this, oh well, we don't need to hold people accountable. It was all a mistake. Like, don't gaslight me, right? I'll give you your space to come around and for accountability to happen, but don't gaslight me.
Exactly. Exactly. It can't be the gaslighting. it can't be this this, oh, actually it wasn't that big of a deal either. You know, like,
Oh,
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 oops, forgiveness
right.
sort of thing.
See,
Mercy.
no, my I can't stand when people say, "Well, we were doing the best we can with the information we had,"
Really?
and it's just straight up lie. It's a straight up lie. I
Literal lie.
remember because I posted on my Instagram I had with my students. It was like April 14th, so we're almost exactly a month into this thing. I had just looked at the first batch of data that came out of New York City,
Mm-hmm.
and there was data that had come out of like Italy and these other places. I hadn't looked at that data. I wasn't really up on things. I was scared. I'll admit that. But after, 2 weeks, I was like, all right, it seems like it's going on. And then after a month, I looked at the data and I was like, okay, it's very clear who's getting sick. It was literally 96% of the people who were dying were really, really old and had multiple comorbidities, you know? And that's
Mm-hmm.
not to say everybody. I had students who had, parents or aunts and uncles who died. But
Yeah.
um but yeah, anyways, we did know what the data was and we could have handled things differently.
Yeah, but there was too much ridicule. There was too much, oh, this and that. Like, you have to accept the solution. You can't question anything. You know, it was obviously a power play. Like, it's
Yeah,
obviously a power
I
play.
Was it from well, there was a little bit in the beginning, I guess, because it was Trump, right? It was mostly this Trump thing, like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Trump is racist." But that felt pretty status quo in terms of Trump as the president. I did feel like for the first month or so, in terms of the people were together, it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
People it wasn't really political between the people. Of course, there was the whole Trump
No.
thing, but it was mostly just like Trump. The media, of course, was super fierce, super this, super that. There were some people who were questioning, but it most people I do feel like were like, "Oh, we're all in this together, like, stay safe." Like my mom was sewing masks and stuff for people,
Yeah.
and I remember my son's father and we were like, getting along and trying to figure things out, and he like went grocery shopping for us and stuff. But
So, yeah. And then it quickly devolved into this,
mhm.
like
It was
this
the
cult.
masks. Once
Yeah.
people realized that once like I started realizing the masks didn't work, especially when they started going harder because we never wore the masks outside. We only wore them to go into the store. So
Yeah.
when it started being like, "Oh, you need to, like, wear the mask all these different places," and, I remember the conspiracy theories about the vaccine started coming out because they started talking about more and more about how they're making this vaccine, and I said it
Mm-hmm.
right then, I will never. I remember June 2020, I was like, "I don't care." In the next however many years, if they come out with a vaccine, I will not take it. There's no way you could get me to take that brand new a brand like, I knew then I would not do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky because it was pretty apparent like what was happening when they started ramping things up like you said, where they were like at first they were like, "Oh, do it in like side," and then,
All
"Oh,
the kids
just
are
wear it
dying of
all outside."
Kawasaki. Remember the
Yeah.
Kawasaki thing? And then no, I remember I thought schools were gonna open because camps were like there were camps that were normal in 2020. I
Mm.
remember things kinda easing down, summer, people were chill, and then it was like July, mid-July, Trump is like, "The schools should open," and then everybody's like, "Ah, the schools, they can't open, there's no way," and everybody started freaking out again.
I know. It was very controlled. It was very, very, it was just over the top. And I hope people learned a little bit about it because it was a really good example of how you just slowly, well, not slow, but how you can like rapidly change people's behavior in such a short time. Like,
Yeah, but I do feel like you said it, there there have been plans, so I'm not familiar with all different industries, but education, right? I was a teacher in New York City, and I'm familiar with education technology
Mm-hmm.
white papers. And they've been saying in their white papers for at least a decade, they've been using virtual learning. They've been using synchronous and asynchronous. They've
Mm-hmm.
been talking about all these terms of like distributed education, and kids don't learn at school, they learn in centers and they go here and there. And so they've had this in their plans. Now, whether to say that the pandemic was planned and it was purposely meant to trigger this, I can't say for sure. But it is interesting that there's been this huge push to put kids online on computers instead of in school buildings. If you said that to somebody 4 years ago, they would have been like, "You're nuts. There's no way."
I know. Obviously, it serves a purpose. It definitely serves like a really big purpose to have people isolated because it makes you, I mean,
Mm.
isolation is one of the most severe tortures you can put somebody through. Like the idea of isolation like that can quickly break a person psychologically. So that worked really well with the whole lockdown.
And I had my parents and my son.
I know.
And I did say at the beginning, I felt like it was a pretty good period, but I do know, obviously, people who are not as well off. I'm sure even those beginning stages put pressure just on people who are in abusive family situations, people who are in unstable housing situations, people who have unstable access to food and other basic services. So, and that was why I rallied to open the schools, because
Yeah.
I recognized that. I saw that when I came face to face with it, when I went back into the schools in fall 2020, I saw the kids who were there. I saw that they not only did they need to be there, they wanted to be there. No, like they could have stayed home and chilled, if they wanted to, but they chose to get up every single day and come into that school building to do their work because it was a safe place for them to be. It was a comfortable place for them to be. It was a place where they could have some independence. It was a place where they could get away from
And see their
uh
friends and socialize and
looking
live.
all around, yeah, like in their house, seeing pictures of their dad who died, or things like that. So I saw that the kids need it, which is why I advocated to get the schools open. But we know how long that took to get done and how much more people suffered. Like you said, the isolation. Were you living with people at the time?
Yeah, I was like, my mom had actually come visit me because I had gone out of the country before. So she had came to watch my dog, and then she just stayed once I got back. And then COVID hit and everything. So
I was doing
it was just
moms.
perfect timing.
All right, nice, nice.
Yeah, it was just really perfect timing. So I'm glad about that because I would have gone crazy. But yeah, it's disturbing. When I saw it, like you said, it didn't affect me in the same way because I was able to work remotely. But just thinking about all the people who lost their jobs and didn't have anything, like, what were you going to do? Literally, what are you going to do? Just sit in the house. So, yeah, it was a mess, and it just shows people don't have, I mean, any opportunity to like be lazy, people are going to be like, yeah, cool. I don't care what the cost is going to be long term. I don't know. Like, I can
Yeah,
just stay at
you have to
home.
dings all your buttons, right? And I think that more people are becoming more aware of that as you flip through the phone on Instagram. You
Yeah.
get caught in one of those like reels, black holes of reels.
Mm-hmm.
And these the food, right? Our food is engineered. They put the
Oh,
MSG.
yeah.
I used to feel it on the dating app, because I would say a lot of people are there just for some quick dopamine dings, but not really to go on dates.
Yeah, just to
So
socialize, honestly.
my system. I really need to trademark my system, and just like I should just like become a internet dating coach. I feel like
Oh, you're good at that?
like
That's so funny.
that's an aspect of liberty, right?
Yeah. No, and someone, John, says in the comments, is it mass formation psychosis? Like, obviously, it's very clearly mass formation psychosis because it just kept ramping up and up and up, because at first it was chill, and then it just got worse and worse and worse, and people just couldn't handle it. They had to just go
I
with
wonder how
this
much it's like
agenda.
a planned thing, right?
Hmm.
Versus or just like a natural way that people act. Like how much is planned whatever mass formation psychosis, how much is that somebody being like, I'm gonna get the masses to, act this way? Perhaps they have a little bit of intentions. We all have ideas and we want to execute them, of course, but how much of is it just like the natural inclination of humans to just push things, to just go too far, to go over the top, to ramp it up? And then also, like, when you like get into like one of those emotional states and you're just like really belligerent, like I think about people in power that way too. Like I feel like they probably just like get so high off their own supply, they're just like belligerent at some point. So it's like, yeah, they're like ramping it up and it's like, oh, mass formation psychosis, but it's just like really them playing out like their natural psychosis
Yeah, I
on
definitely think people are
people.
super predictable. So you can like pull a bunch of levers and pulleys and know what the outcome's going to be, how are people going to respond to a message, especially when you spend time priming people and preparing them for what the answer will be. Because that's the really insidious part, is like all the time spent behind the scenes before you get the like message of do this or do that. It's like they're priming you and they're preparing you to respond and answer in a certain way. So
You
it's
ever been to
just
one of those shows, those mentalist shows?
the mentalist shows.
Yeah, like where they read your mind.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I've seen those for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
they're
there's a really good
so
book.
crazy.
Um, this guy, he is a mentalist, and he talks about all the ways like you can manipulate people. And his name is like Nick Colinda, and his book is like Methods of Persuasion. And he utilizes all those things, and he just like, anticipates the way he phrases things, just everything. It's a really, really good book. I recommend it to anybody who's like
I do feel
into.
like I have pretty good intuition to like feel the vibe, of what somebody's saying or what somebody's
Yeah.
going or like where they're going with something.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is like, if you think about it, there's so many people who are cut off from that intuition. Like all
Mm.
of these harmful foods, all of these harmful lifestyles, all of these traumatic relationships, all it does is serve to cut people off
That's
from
how I feel about my
source.
birth control pills. Like even
Hmm?
though now that's how I felt about my birth control pills, like to be
Oh,
honest in a
yeah.
way, because like I felt like they, even though now sometimes I feel like I have like worse cramps. Sorry if there's guys listening. But like I just felt like I was responding to the pill and not to my natural cycle. Like I just feel more in tune with myself.
Yeah.
Um, rather than being like having cramps and be like, oh shoot, I forgot to take my pill for 2 days.
I know
But,
what you mean. Yeah,
but
that
yeah, I
stuff
just
is intense.
like, I think and also too, the other thing about the pill is it has you on a monthly schedule instead of a 28-day schedule, which goes with the moon, right? Like your cycle is a 28-day schedule, which is like the moon cycle. And when you're on the pill, they put you on a monthly cycle, which is the sun cycle. And I think that's really important.
What? That's something? Like the sun cycle and the moon cycle?
Like, well,
Oh
'cause,
my
like,
God, we're
think about
getting into it. I totally misspelled the book. No,
the
but
moon cycle is 28 days, like the
yeah.
moon changes on 28 days. We don't follow the moon calendar, like we follow the sun calendar and we get like 12 months. But think about it um like
So
we have
it
13 months.
manipulates our perception of reality at a like very deep level. Basically, it's
Like yeah,
literally changing.
people say the same thing about like Christmas, how like they have us celebrate the new year in like the lowest part of the year really, right? Because there's lack of sun versus really rebirth is in the spring and that's when the
Yeah.
new year and there's a lot more energy and there's a lot more sun and there's a lot more light and to do the celebration and you have higher like vibrations at that time.
Yeah, well, that's getting into the whole like esoteric aspect of it, I would say. And that's definitely important to like realize, but we need that intuition. That's why I say for all the people who took the medication, the experimental substances, it's like their intuition wasn't really telling them no. So, I mean, what are we going to do? Like,
It was. I do think a lot of people it was, like, a lot of people were genuinely coerced into doing it.
yeah,
You know, like, a lot of
yeah,
people were genuinely I know a lot of people who got one shot, who, like,
yeah.
got the first one, and some of them had bad reactions or, like, whatever, maybe not a bad reaction, just, like, some sort of reaction, other ones not so much, but it was just more so, like, they knew that they didn't make the right choice after that, and they just, like most employers too, after you got the first shot, they didn't really bother you and do good follow-up, I found too.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, and I think it's going to self correct and we'll figure it out. Like we can still have hope, you know, think good thoughts, raise the vibration, get good energy out there. Hopefully, I mean, the human body is incredibly resilient. So I think we can be pretty positive in a lot of ways. But I wanted to get back to what you were talking about in terms of like the movements and it not looking like people expect it to look. Because I feel like that's something that is never discussed. And I think it's really important, especially for people who are looking to, start to use their voices, start to just take control of their lives in any way. Like, say, hey, I don't want this system. I don't want to be a part of this, like, agenda. And that takes you saying no. That takes you speaking out. And it's not going to be like this huge fanfare type of situation. And it's going to be pretty scary, but it's totally worth it, I think. I feel my soul is like way happier knowing that I'm like at least, attempting to influence more of a positive future. Um, I don't know how you feel about it. Do you feel like it's just like something you had
Well,
to do?
yeah, I mean, just about speaking out in general,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I felt it was very important to not just avoid, but to speak truth, because I think that's how totalitarianism, that's how evil exists, is not because people themselves are evil or actively supporting the evil, but because they're just passively not saying anything.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and I was a history teacher. I consider myself a historian. I think it's important to put things on record. I think it's important to document so people in the future can kind of look back and evaluate for themselves what it was, cuz things are always seen different in the current event than they are 10 years later, than they are 20 years later. Our perceptions of our relationship and understanding of morals and values and our own situation change. But I think what I found by continuing to do advocacy is that it's really being on the ground and being with the community that is most impactful, right? It's not like you're screaming online or typing to nobody into Twitter or you know
Yes.
like, you're really with the people in your community, looking face to face with them, trying to solve problems, or hopefully, sometimes
Hmm.
I was talking to a woman today, for example, on email, and she was like, "Oh, well, I saw your position on the transgender policy, and I don't know if we agree," because I had invited her to coffee. So she's like, "I think I'll pass." And I'm like, "Hold on. This is exactly the conversation we are supposed to be meeting up to talk about. If we
Yeah.
cannot sit across the table from somebody in our own community, our own neighbor, and discuss these issues, what hope is there for our children?" And so I think that maybe it can be a little bit intimidating to meet up one on one with somebody. So I'm gonna put together like a community event, and hopefully she'll come to that. If not that one in the future. But I really think that that's the most important part, is not like trying to look for this big change and be like, oh, there it is. Look, we
Yeah.
won. Or some constant or Supreme Court win, or some even something on the state level, or I think that it's just about getting in the community and finding your neighbors and really finding your purpose. You know, because we can get out here on the internet, but if you don't know the person living down the street from you, or you're not, worried about the schools in your town or what
That's
they're doing,
true.
what are you doing? What are you doing?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't say it better. I mean, it's just they want this like glamorized, over the top caricature of what it is, but it's like everyday life. And that's why you're not supposed to have you're not supposed to have someone lording over you. You're supposed to be able to direct and work together to find some common solutions. Why do you think it is that people decided just to give up on like having dialogue with their neighbors and figuring out like as a community what they want? Where do you see that happening? Is it just people are too busy and just burnt out?
I mean,
Or
I think anything there's going to be a combination of factors, and I think that's definitely one of them is that people have build busy lives. Both parents are generally working in a household,
mm-hmm.
and then you have your kids, and kids are have all these schedules of activities.
Yeah.
And so, and then of course, on top of that, we built these lives of convenience. The reason that everybody can do all these things is because you have the car and you have the gadget and you have the, all these lives of convenience that we built, which again, it's great. Just like Instagram is great, YouTube is great, but as long as we're staying grounded and also doing the work in the community. So I think that's definitely one factor is the busyness, the dual income families. I think another thing is going back to the kind of programming aspect, the media influence aspect. If we look at the way that as media corporations have become more monopolized, so I think they went from like having like 30 big corporations in the 20th century, in the second half of the 20th century, to now it's like five, right? So as the information has become more and more centralized, then people are being programmed and hearing the same thing. So there's kind of less diversity of thought in what people are commonly hearing unless they're
Mm-hmm.
seeking out alternative sources. And then a lot of people point to when around like 2009, 2010, the media started really using the word race, racism, um, white supremacy, all of these words. They started focusing on stories that had these words disproportionate to other stories. And this is a change from how they were in the past, not because more of these incidents were happening, but just because these places are choosing to spotlight them. And
Yeah.
and so I really do think that we've gone from a place where, growing up in the 90s, of course we had our OJ, there was Rodney King. It's not like it was free of racial incidents. This is America. However, I do feel like there was a pretty like, yeah, America's like culturally diverse, and we all I don't know.
Yeah.
It, it felt like
Yeah.
we were progressing to a
Yeah,
place.
we were connecting. We weren't dividing so much. No, I agree. And it's like they're the problem with it is that, like you were saying, they're priming people in the media. Like they started priming people, calling people's attention to race, making it be about race, make it be the central issue, all of this division. And the problem with it is, it's like for some reason, especially people in my demographic, is like how I'm gonna say it so I don't get any like
People are
flag
beautiful.
words. No. The tragic the tragics, they're not magic, they're just being tragic. Um it's like this overemphasis and this focus on all these bad things that happen. And if that actually solves the problem, I would be down for it. I would be like collapsing in the streets, like, oh, let me be, like playing some like Negro spiritual, like max volume, being like, oh, set me free, like I would do that
They
if it's.
Free Max B. Is that what you said?
Huh?
Did you say Free Max B?
No, no, I would be playing Negro spirituals. Just free
Okay.
me, free me. Um, I'd be doing that, but it doesn't solve the problem. And that's the problem is when you're listening to people who can't solve their own problems and you're like overemphasizing like their opinions and their outlooks, it's like, what are you doing?
Right, right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like a good Negro spiritual dance, you know.
I know, but
Uh,
it's not solving the problem. I'm
no,
about
I
solving the
know
problem, not
exactly.
acknowledging how hard things are for
Yeah.
me.
I
It's
think
like,
another thing
okay.
too is like, and this predates the media. I think the media is more probably a symptom of this, but the way that the progressive outlook has been woven into our politics and into our institutions, particularly our education institutions. And that really started to happen in the late 1880s, or I'm sorry, the late 1800s, 1880s, 1890s. And we kind of copied the German model where we started taking, the doctorate, and it was like something to do. Like, you didn't just go get a degree to go out and do a job. It was like you got a degree to think about things. And so all
Yeah.
these social sciences started taking precedent, and you could make the world a better place. And then of course we have Woodrow Wilson and FDR, right, who really take progressivism and they weave it into the American language of liberty and freedom. And it's your right to have healthcare, it's your right to have housing. That started really under FDR. And so yeah, our government and political system was really captured by progressives, and that's why we've had the bloat of this welfare system. It's all based on this kind of progressive ideology, like you said, that we can all just do like Negro spiritual dances and like Native American rain dances and like, pray to the ancestors and we'll be fine. Like, I do all those things. Like, the ancestors are very important, like,
But they're
praise.
busy. We need to do our own thing.
Right,
Like, we
right,
need
but
to
we have
solve the
to out
problem.
here, yes. And I think that, think about the things that you feel the best about, the most accomplished about in your life. Oftentimes, or almost all of the time, when you were in the midst of those things, it fucking sucked, right?
It did
Like, to get
suck,
to
yes.
the top of that hill, you had to like scrape by, you had to grind, you had to, and that's how you made it. It wasn't people like, oh, here's a rose and here's a rainbow and here's a lollipop and it's okay. Like, no.
I know. I know. It's disturbing. It's disturbing. And it just needs to stop. Like, we have to stop with all of this pity party. All of it. Just stop. Just stop. Be
Yeah.
empowered. Like, you're not going to be empowered by talking about how disempowered you are. It's like they don't understand the healing process, I guess,
Hmm.
or it's just nice to be sick all the time and just be like, oh, I'm dying. And just like keep milking that. Participation trophies, yeah. It's like we have to get that out. And so yeah, I hate being against, but it's just like I'm looking at my demographic and I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Because it seems like you're trying to go back on the boats. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I don't not get it. And just now also, oh my God, I found this like lady on TikTok. Like, she is like person of no color savior. Like, the complex is real. Like,
Video started as my college project.
she is just over the top. Over the top. And I'm going to do a video on that too.
Okay.
What is going on? There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. No, so yeah, there's a lot that's happening. And I feel like on the other side of what I was just saying about my demographic, the other side is like putting the like BLM posters and just acting like that's like saving the world because they're gracing people with their brief attention, or like it's just ridiculous. I can't
Well,
stand that.
right. And I do think that this is exactly the segue into the video of me speaking at the Board of Education meeting, because I feel like this is what our school district is trying to do with all this diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is they're saying, in this specific instance, they're adding holidays to the calendar. And not because the school can't function on those days, because there's so many students that have these religions. There's a
Yeah,
very representation actually of them, in terms of numbers. But because they want them to feel included.
they do. They need to feel
Right.
included.
But you know what?
I need to
And
feel that you feel I'm included.
they want to feel respected. And I'm like, okay.
See, it's about feeling. It's not about action. It's never about tangible results of them being quote unquote included. They never define what does included look like.
Here's my thing is do you know how you feel included? If you can read the words on the sign around you. If you can add up the numbers for the things that you're going to purchase, and you know how much money you're supposed to make, it helps me feel included in society. And you know what usually happens to the people who can't read and do math? Not all of them. But I will tell you a place that is filled with over 80% of the people there who cannot read and do math. And that place is called prison.
But that's what they're ultimately trying. That's the thing. They're ultimately trying to move us toward there. We're emulating prisoners to become prisoners. Like,
Right.
hello.
So you can't respect somebody and you can't include them. If your school district is graduating, first of all, graduation rates have been decreasing since 2018. But if they're graduating and 60% of the kids, I kid you not, cannot read on grade level. 70% of the kids cannot do math.
The comprehension level is like basement.
Right.
Like,
And those who can read, right? This is what I saw is the kids who can read, they have no idea what they're reading.
I know. It's a disaster. It's such a
Bad and
disaster.
disrespectful. And I want to know, where were the parents who came out to complain about their holiday not being in the calendar when they found out that 80% of the classrooms don't have curriculum? It's like,
What are they doing in there?
When you put my freaking holiday in the calendar, I'm coming down to bang down your door. You talk about your feelings during reading time. Oh, well, Johnny probably needed that, or whatever. He probably
They can't read the subtitles of a movie, and they can't understand the like older films because they talk, in a way that's not like a Marvel movie script. It's so disturbing how the comprehension has gone so far down. They cannot follow complex storylines. Like, it has to be like, this happened to this person and that happened to that person. It's so sad. It's so sad. So let's listen to your little epic, very epic, not little rant. So I'm gonna play it.
3%. That's how many students in Stanford Public Schools can do math proficiently.
You're just like
33%. That's how many students in Stanford Public Schools can do math proficiently. I'll say it again. 33%. 40%. That's how many students in Stanford Public Schools can read proficiently. 40. And I'm going to hypothesize that it's not because they don't have their holiday in the calendar and don't feel included. Rather, that I'm going to put this out there. It's because only 20% of our courses have written curricula. That's right, 20%.
Wow. You just like laid it down. I just don't understand how they can sit on a board and how people can listen and watch this and just it just goes over their head. They don't even recognize. Do they recognize what you're saying? Like, what's the feedback you got after this?
Well, I think a lot of people still think that, well, they can't learn to read and write and do math if they don't feel included or respected.
What?
I think that does it for some people. I think a lot of people can still be like, oh, well, that person is just like one of those right-wing mom for liberty or something like that. I think that some people just don't really get it. That they can hear you, but it doesn't really mean anything when there's no accountability. And that's the problem, is there's no accountability, from the bathrooms being clean and the fields being taken care of at the schools, to kids getting in trouble for bullying other students, that it's students who have disabilities, and that's like horrible. Can you imagine, like, kids making fun of a kid who has autism and bullying him and stuff and punching him in the bathroom?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to do it to a kid who kind of understands what's fully going on. But yeah, just basic things like, making sure that a kid does not get out of the 3rd grade unless they're reading on grade level. It's a really simple thing, but there's no accountability for administrators. We have a Black woman superintendent because we're so inclusive. And that would be fine if she was getting results. And she's a lovely woman. I've talked to her. She's nice. She went to Ohio State University like my mom, and we've had some great conversations, right? I just don't think she's very good at her job.
Wait a second. Did you just say a Black woman is not good at her job? Is that possible? You can't even say that. Are you serious? No! I'm like, oh my God. On behalf of my food desert companions, we are going to boycott you. Like, oh my God. One time I had somebody, like, I was criticizing someone.
I said that I had a friend who's a Black woman.
Oh my God, who cares? One time.
It's not you, besides you.
Just so you can touch her hair. I know what you people are up to. No, can I tell you, one time I was criticizing someone and they were like something, and they were like, oh, where do you think you're gonna be if you're not gonna be with us doing this and that? I was like, somewhere where I'm like not in a food desert. Like, I'm gonna be around people who like don't like tolerate that. And then I was like something, and then they found out I was mixed race, and they're like, oh, well, you can't be with us. I was like, in the food desert? Okay. Like, eating popsicles for like trying to get vitamins from popsicles. Like, this tastes like fruit. Like, what the hell?
I refuse to believe that you cannot get vitamins from popsicles. I'm sorry. That is how I have my dessert.
Vitamin A, vitamin C.
I get like the real fruit bar though, not like the fake like water.
I think it's mostly sugar. But no, it's just so ridiculous. And it's like, we have to stop with this like whole thing about no one can be criticized. Nothing can be like, hey, maybe, I don't know, maybe this isn't going so well. Maybe this isn't working.
I think I really try, I'm pretty intense in my opinions, but I do think that I wrap them in like a genuine love and curiosity. And I'm trying to work on my delivery to not be like so, I guess, intimidating and aggressive. Some people come off as, I think. Or like preachy maybe. But
the preachiness. But people need leaders though.
Right. Like, you know what, it's all about what's the right balance. And but yeah, I really do genuinely just try to love and care and just be there for people, go out of my way to to hold the door or make somebody feel good about themselves in the moment. So, I think that's okay. We don't have to be like totally hardcore that we can't make somebody feel good.
I know we can, but we have to just stop with this like, oh, look, this is good just because it's good. Like, no, it's not good. It's not working. And it's unfortunate because I'm really being critical because there's no balance. Like, people in my demographic, they just seem to overwhelmingly vote in one direction. They seem to overwhelmingly look at certain policies. And it's just like, what are you doing? Like, what is going on? Like, why are you doing this? Like, can we not at least maybe think about valuing things like freedom, like, and that's happened across the board though. That's like every demographic is facing that issue because like most of these people, I remember when we were going through the whole lockdown thing, most people don't even know what freedom is or why they should value it. Like, it's bad. Like, how can you not know that? And for us, it doesn't make sense, but like literally they value Krispy Kreme donuts more
Well, that's what
than
I'm
freedom.
saying. That's thinking about it on the scale of a country, it's
Mhm.
hard, but like when you think about that spoiled kid, right? Like their parents, they worked hard, rag to riches story, and then they have their kid and they give them everything they want. And the kid has never had to work it for anything, gets everything they want. And then they grow up and they don't know how to do anything and they, spend all their parents' money or whatever, however the story goes. But that's a real thing. I see it a lot with like the second generation Americans, right? Their
Mhm.
parents super hard to get here. The kids don't understand like the journey the parent had to do to immigrate here, how hard they worked, and they just want the Jordans and the bacon, egg, and cheese and the iced tea every morning at the store or whatever it is. But yeah.
Exactly. There's no, it's all,
So I
yeah.
liked it from different accounts.
Oh. Yeah. It's all, yeah, like the video. It's all, everybody's like such a fan of your glasses. Your glasses are like trademark. Like, look,
Thank you.
epic.
Yes, are my trademark glasses right here, the American flag glasses.
That's the
It
best way
makes
to have
it
it.
easier. I just have a hard time looking at the screen, especially at the end of the day. These are blue light glasses, and
Oh,
just for
nice.
yes,
Yeah, those are perfect. I'm gonna start wearing like sunglasses in my live streams. I'll be like, yeah, what's
yeah,
up? But no, there's a lot to happen. There's a lot that needs to happen. And it needs to happen with individuals like speaking out, knowing how to talk to their family members, knowing how to talk to other people in their community, their coworkers, how to actually handle this. Because I don't think we're really like shown, or there's no like practical
yeah. Well,
model
here,
of how do you communicate with people.
so this is a really good book right here. It's called
Mm.
Economics in One Lesson, and it's basically it has how many pages? It's like 200 pages altogether,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically just over and over again the same lesson in different situations. So it'll be like let's let's see, the broken window, public works means taxes, who's protected by tariffs, and the lesson's the same every time. You can't get anything from government because government takes from you to give to other people, right? So it's based on
That's so
stealing.
funny.
Right? And yeah, so and any value you might get, there's always secondary consequences you're not accounting for. So this is a really good simple book if you're looking for how can I talk to people better about um economics and why a free market capitalist system, or at least, there's you're not ever going to have a pure free market capitalist system, but
Mm-hmm.
getting in that direction is very important, and unfortunately we're bending back. So I would start with this for economics, and then
Yeah, I
um
agree. That's a good starting point. Talking to people about like free market. Like, you have to like slowly like, okay, one principle, one thing at a time. Like, can we agree on like that we all want to make money and not be totally, serfs to the government? Like, that's the first one. And obviously there's going to be people who don't understand it fully and don't recognize why it's important to go toward free markets, toward
Exactly.
capitalism. They don't really know the benefits, so you have to break things down, and that's I think the biggest hurdle for people is they don't understand.
Right.
They literally have to break things
I
down
think thing
into small
that
pieces.
I think one thing that liberty people, whether they be like the capitalists or whatever, on the right, even though I don't like that term, I don't think that right left is a good term. But I think that one thing that people on our side don't do well is really hitting home that it's bigger, it's better. We give you more than the government could ever imagine to give you, because they're so good at that. The progressives are really good at being like, but the government, they're going to give you more houses. We're going to give you better. We're going to give you tax refund. We're going to, like, they're always talking about, you get this, you get that. And then, of course, on our side, we're like, well, the government shouldn't give you anything. It should be all about.
I know, that's a horrible counter argument. That's
We need to reframe this into how we can do bigger and better and more, because you literally can. So I think a good example might be for immigration, right? So this might not be a super popular view, but in a free nation, the government should never be able to limit your movement or your ability as a business owner about who you can and cannot hire. Right? Their only responsibility for the government would be limited to ensuring that no terrorists come over, right? So like a legit terrorist, not just like this expansive vision of terrorists, like enemies of the state, and then anybody who's posing a direct threat, to people's livelihood at that time, where the police, right? So they have police and border protection, and then they're in charge of like if you become a citizen. But they should not be able to limit who I as a business owner can hire, because I know best how to generate more money, how to create more wealth, how to do more things and create more opportunities for more people. The government just wants to limit where people can go to and from. And we see what happens when they get on the border. Then we have to spend more tax dollars doing more things, and then they can't concentrate on what their actual responsibilities are. So by getting the government.
totally agree. I totally agree. That I'm so glad. Like, we're on the same page on so many things, and I really appreciate it. It's refreshing because too many people don't get it. They don't get, you can't sell the negative and think that's going to somehow win. You can't be like constantly telling people what they're not going to get. Like, why would, like, in anything, why would someone want to join that party of like, oh, if I go over here, I'm not going to get stuff? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I like these comments. Private John says private ownership in free markets has done more good for the world than any other government combined ever, which is so true. Personally, Jagger says, personally, I see it as alt-left versus everyone else, because really that's what it is. Yeah, I agree. Like, you're not on the right.
Better, I think it's better. Better than that, or more accurate, would be ruling class. The ruling class, like the elite class versus everyone else. And this whole left-right thing is actually a divide and conquer of the low people, of the little people. And the ruling class, they just play the game.
Yeah, they're definitely going at it. They're definitely going at it. So, and then Soren Mask says, so what you're saying is that we ought to get better at propaganda?
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something.
Yeah, I do think we need to get better at messaging.
Yeah.
Right? I think what would separate propaganda from messaging is its relationship to the truth.
Well,
Right?
propagandists can tell you the truth. It's the part that trips people up is that the outcome of their message, like the inevitable outcome of the actions they're trying to push you toward, they're not apparent. They're not fully understood by the person like executing the action. Like, if I tell you, oh, go down to the store and get me this, I could be doing that because I know that there's going to be an earthquake and you don't know that, or something, like some crazy, that's a bad scenario, but
what you mean. I understand what you mean. Like,
Yeah, like they don't know the outcome. So that part is hidden because
right.
they do use truth like a lot of the time, and they make a good balance of it. Like, yeah, obviously the majority of propaganda is built on like faulty logic, like things that don't make sense. Like, because
Right.
they have to like connect the dots somehow.
Yeah. So I guess like whatever the literal truth is or not, I think that if you're messaging a free market capitalist system that's based on freedom, it's like a morally it's morally it has like the moral high ground. It has the moral imperative, right? So I'm messaging to convince you of doing something moral versus messaging you to do something that's immoral, whether or not I'm using facts to do that or not. Of course, again, it's like, well, what's immoral? What's moral? Like, why is what you're saying is right versus wrong? But we see what even a bent towards free markets gets us, right? We get phone, we get this microphone, we get all sorts of amazing stuff. We see what a bent towards socialism gets us. Gets us tens of millions of people dead.
Or like not having power, basic things. Like, just, yeah, it because it's, if you think about it in terms of like systems thinking and how like complex systems in reality work, like nature, if you try to consolidate and control everything at the top, it's gonna fall apart. You have to make sure that there's like checks and balances along the way, you know. And John says propaganda is just message packaging, which ends in the targets doing something not in their own best interests.
Yeah.
Definitely, because they're not going to like the outcome. Because if they did like the outcome, you can be honest with them, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like always the thing that it's so hard to wrap your mind around as a good, moral, God-fearing person. I saw the meme this morning when they were like, "Oh, we gotta cut some costs around here. We're gonna have to fire some people." And then the other person switches screens. Well, just replace it with poison. And then they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, just replace it with poison." It's like literally what they do in our food though, and I just don't get it. I don't understand at what point you're sort of just like, yeah, we'll just like take out the real ingredients and put in this totally synthetic made up thing. At what point are you okay with that?
They're fine with it because, I
I
mean,
just don't understand how it happens.
profit over
I mean, I get
purpose.
how it happens. I get how it happens when I can like pull myself back, but it's just that's literally what they do. They're like, "Oh, we're just gonna take out the actual real ingredients and we're gonna put in red dye 5
I know.
and double hydrogenated peanut oil."
And sometimes that stuff is like more expensive, like more processing, like more like, so that's why it's like whenever they're putting more effort into poisoning you or doing these like nefarious like agendas, it's like obviously there's going to be a payout for like some bigger agenda, you know? Like, why do you have to put cottonseed oil in peanut butter? Like, what? Like, why?
It's the alien what is it called? The Alien Federation. You haven't heard about that?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, I know
A lot of black people talk about that. That's like a black people are deep in the conspiracies.
they are, and I'm glad about that. But unfortunately, they're all like we need to, like, oh my God, the worst. So there's this like conscious rapper called KSR1, and he's
Yeah,
doing some like thing with Chuck Schumer. I'm like, what in the hell are these people doing? Like, really?
I would be interested to see what he's doing.
He's doing some like event with him, and it's like, why? Like, can we figure this out?
The problem is with these people is, even though, I mean, KSR1, I don't know how much his expenses are, or how much money he has made or whatever, but a lot of these celebrities, they build up these expensive lifestyles
I don't think
that
expensive lifestyle.
I don't know about KSR1. He always looks like he's like just roll out of bed.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these celebrities, it can be Questlove or, you know, whatever, Sarah Jessica Parker or whoever the person is, you know, that has the Pfizer tags recently. They just have such expensive lifestyles that they build up. So it's constantly just figuring out, okay, like how can I make $20 million this year? It's a lot of money to figure out how to make. You got to whore yourself out.
Yeah, you gotta like do something really ratchet to pull it off, and that's the corrupted. That's the
I'm going
corruption, you
for
know.
Drake. That was my thing. I just like I'll have like a baby, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that. Like they can do all like the whoring out there. I'll just do like a one-time whoring deal. Just get the kid.
Oh
You
my
know,
god.
like just get the kid, you know, get that like 20 G's a month on child support.
Ooh, yeah, that's how it has to be. Like that's how it is, right? You get a free
Yeah.
house, or like you get free housing, you get like everything.
Yeah. You know, you gotta like go to Christmas with like the 5 other baby mamas, but that's straight. Like one day.
Oh my
I
god.
see love and hip hop. I see love and hip hop. I know how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. No, that's definitely how it works. But yeah, so no, this has been a great conversation. I feel like we really touched on a lot of important points because honestly, there has to be more of a practical discussion around this sort of moving people toward having better skills at having a dialogue, interfacing their communities, sparking movements, like actually doing something to change the outcome of these events. Like nothing's like settled. And we all, and like you said in the beginning, we all expect it to look like this glamorous, cool way, like you're going to go viral on Twitter or some, you know, ridiculous scenario, when it's literally just you talking at a board meeting or, you know, explaining to a friend who explains to another friend. And, you know, there's that ripple spiderweb effect that happens. And that's what we can pretty much expect. That's like the best a lot of us could do.
Yeah, that's what I hope everybody out there is doing. I know we have our
Mm-hmm.
social media personalities, we're involved in these big communities, but what are you involved in your community, in your neighborhood, whether, you know, be like me, really involved in the school district here, or maybe you're interested in some other thing. I know a big thing in local politics is the um what's it called? Like what you're allowed to build where, zoning,
Yeah, those are important.
big thing. Yeah, they make a lot of decisions. So and maybe it's not politics, maybe it's a mentoring
Yeah,
like thing. Maybe it's, I don't know. I just think that everybody should really know your neighbors, be involved in your community, know what's going on in your local politics, and that's how you really get the most fulfillment. You know, it's
you
not from
do.
likes on Instagram, it's not from getting, you know, 10,000 followers on Instagram. Even though I'm trying to get to 10,000 followers, guys, it will make me feel really good cuz
You need to
Instagram
do some thirst traps.
Instagram with me every time I
It's
get to 9,080 followers, like, or 9 over that, they just like
mm.
bump me back down again.
Oh my
So
god.
go follow me on Instagram. Uh, wait, Teaching Liberty is giving Keisha King and
What?
from Mostly Peaceful.
I don't know who that is, but I mean, it sounds epic.
I think Keisha King is like the Moms for Liberty woman. She's like a
Oh,
black
okay.
woman who does
Okay,
Moms
okay.
for Liberty. So I think that's a compliment. I think she's
I
saying
think it's definitely a compliment too. There, I don't think there's any haters.
I think that's your type of people. Keisha
I,
King, she's
I know. I don't get enough haters. I need to get more haters. But yeah, so let's do this again. And I think this is an important
yeah,
conversation to be
let's do this
having.
for sure.
Yeah, because we
Definitely.
need to
All right,
keep
next time
going.
over on my channel.
Yeah, yeah. Next time, yours place, and we'll keep going back and forth. So yeah, where can people find you?
Teaching Liberty right here on YouTube, also on Instagram, and then I'm also on Twitter, but somebody else has Teaching Liberty. So I'm Teach Liberty 1.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. So check her out. Don't you have a regular show also that you do?
I'm really trying. Yes, on Saturday nights, you're right. On Saturday nights, I do my live show. It's like a weekly news show review, and I have like rotating
Yeah, you have
co-hosts
really good spots. Yeah.
trying to. Yep. So that we're coming up this Saturday night. I should be going on actually with a local person here from
Oh,
Stanford,
cool.
also
Oh, cool.
former New York City teacher. So look out for that on Saturday.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining the live. I know this is a Tuesday night. It's kind of late, but I like the late night chats because we can all like hopefully pay attention fully. But yeah, everyone, thanks for joining. Like the video, subscribe to our channels. Definitely check Teaching Liberty out because, like, come on, we're doing the Lord's work.
Yes, we are. Listen,
All
God
right.
bless. I love all your beautiful faces.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.